The flying saucer review researcher who was involved in this case seemed to wonder if they were involved in possibly, incarnating this baby, this fetus. It was early March 2012. Joe Moore was awakened by the screams for help coming from his son's bedroom. Assuming somebody might have broken in, Moore immediately jumped out of bed and ran into the room. His two sons, Corey, age 10, and Lucas, age 4, were standing on their beds, frantically rambling about a blue light and an object outside their window. None of what they were telling me was making any sense. After they calmed down, I got the full story. My son Corey said they were lying in bed talking, joking around, unable to sleep, when they suddenly saw a blue light to their left on the bedroom wall, making a perfect circle shape. At that point, the kids told him the circle exploded. The circle just sort of blew up or expanded, turning the entire room blue before everything turned bright white, causing them to be blinded by it, with a deafening ringing in their ears. My son Corey said to me that his eyes were open the entire time, but everything was blinding white, lasting for just a few seconds, yet they heard no noise at all. Corey claimed next that as soon as he could see, he jumped to the window. He told his brother to stay down on the bed. He pulled the shade and looked down at the sidewalk, thinking it was a prank by some neighborhood teenagers. That's when he said he'd seen a small disc-like craft slowly going across the street in between the post office and the church, about as high as the streetlights. It was then in the parking lot, making a left turn to go behind the post office, where it angled itself upwards, then shot into the sky. That's when he screamed for help. Moore admits that he got quite angry with his sons. He simply did not believe their story. I said some things I now regret, and forced them to go back to bed. He brought it up the next morning, but I said that's enough BS, and not to go around telling people this. We dropped it, and that was the end of it. A few weeks after this event, things settled back to normal, and the incident wasn't brought back up again. That changed one night when Moore and his wife were up late with the kids. As Moore neared his son's bedroom, he heard something odd. We were outside his bedroom door. We clearly heard someone moving around before it bumped into a toy, causing it to move loudly on the wood floor. All of our kids were sleeping in the living room that night, so we opened the door right away and didn't see anything. At that point, Moore suspected that they might be dealing with a ghost. Yes, Moore was a believer in such things, and on a lark, he immediately grabbed his new iPhone 4 and turned it on. We stood there looking at the viewfinder together. We saw with our own eyes what looked like a small skinny child crouched on the floor trying to hide. As we looked away from the screen and into the spot where it was, we saw nothing but an empty space among the toys on the floor. Moore went to get Corey, his son. He wanted him to go with him into the room to check it out. At the same time, his wife began turning on her iPad. I got back a few seconds later with Corey, and we walked inside a few feet and sat down to record what we just thought was a ghost child. We don't hear or see anything until we reviewed the audio and photos. What was captured on the photos is exactly what we thought it was: a skinny child ghost, a shadowy reptile-like figure. I didn't see it, but on the full video my wife remarked as we were standing there that she saw shadowy movement. Upon review of the video and audio, we noticed a loud bug-like croaking or clicking as I take that first shot, setting foot inside the room, followed by a clear voice: "We cannot let them know." Moore acknowledged that when he handed the recordings over to the Flying Saucer Review magazine, he was certain that they would clearly hear the voice. Further examining the footage, they noticed that it appeared that the figure had pincers or crab-like claws where the hand should be. Flying Saucer Review noted that they had heard of other such cases in which witnesses observed creatures with crab-like claws for hands inside or around UFOs. Moore also noted that the large-headed being seemed to have some sort of bone ridges above its eyes. Another odd detail they found upon examining the video, something unseen to their eyes at the time of the event, a strange blue light bar zipping out of the room as they were preparing to leave it. It was at the top of the video, shooting out at an angle where the wall meets the ceiling. This detail was confirmed by the Flying Saucer Review, noting that it was clearly visible in the recording. Moore claimed that following the event, he and his family moved, not once, but twice. Uncertain of what they'd experienced at the other house, Moore and his wife outfitted their home with security cameras. We began to record our kids in bed all night with Sony night vision camcorders, further upgrading to a nice DVR system with our tax rebate. He admitted that while they never experienced anything else, they were still quite disturbed by the incident. At times we still huddle in the living room when we feel uneasy about being alone. In 2016, Josh Moore sat down for an interview with the Flying Saucer Review magazine. He was asked to further elaborate on the initial sighting. Both of my sons were up until 1 a.m. wrestling on their bed, and suddenly a blue beam of light came through the window onto the wall. It was about 15 inches in diameter and stopped on the wall like a blue LED circle. My sons looked up at it and it grew real fast into a blinding white flash. They couldn't see or hear for about 7 seconds. He ran to the window and saw a little craft like a disc. It was about the size of a fridge, 6 to 10 feet. It traveled slowly to the post office, stopped, and shot up at an incredible speed. That's when he started hollering, and I ran in and found them frantic on the bed. I was frustrated with them waking me up with such a story. I said they'd probably just seen an emergency vehicle passing by and not to tell anyone at school. He was then asked to elaborate on the second encounter. 2 weeks after the initial disturbance, our sons had swapped their bedroom with us. My oldest son was downstairs playing video games. I was walking past their empty bedroom, which had its door shut. I heard a few steps on the hardwood floor, then a noise as if a plastic toy had been kicked across the floor. I thought maybe this was a ghost. I picked up my iPhone 4 to try and capture it. I called for my oldest son to come in with me. I first took 4 photos of the room from the doorway. Then I stepped across the threshold, and on my video, I could see something silver sitting on an empty space on the floor where there were less toys. I couldn't see anything with my eyes, but on the screen it reminded me of the blurred presence of the alien in the film Predator. At this point, I thought I was dealing with the ghost of a small girl. I said, "You don't have to be afraid." At that point, my daughter, who was sleeping in my children's old bedroom, started screaming. She said she saw a zombie in the room. 2 years later, when someone brought a book on aliens to my house for me to read, she spontaneously pointed to a picture of a gray and said, "Zombie." He told the interviewer that following that night, they began to fear for the safety of their children. Our nights were changed for good. We gathered as a family in the living room to sleep. Later, when our children moved back to their own room, we set up a night vision camera to watch over them. As mentioned previously, the Moore family moved twice and the children experienced no more events. As a family, they sometimes discuss what happens, but they rarely discuss it outside the home, opting to keep it a personal matter. Joe admitted that up to that point he'd never seen a UFO. That changed in September of 2013. He had joined his wife outside one evening. She was on the phone with her sister, who, that same day, announced her pregnancy. As soon as he got around from where she was sitting, she yelled for him to, quote, "Look at that thing," which had suddenly come into view over the treetops. Moore described that it was boomerang-shaped, smooth, with a front light and a light under each wingtip. It made no noise and was about the size of 2 Boeing 747s. It slowly passed over their house and continued on all the way across town. In the intervening years they had brainstormed together any other incidents, but none could recall ever seeing a UFO, a blue light, or of experiencing any missing time. Nothing out of the ordinary. Corey recalled a strange dream he had had of being inside a room of shiny chrome, sitting on a bench, unable to see clearly from feeling groggy, but nothing else. Moore's wife noted that as a teenager, she had to have a small sunflower seed-sized object surgically removed from her foot. But this could have come from anywhere, she reasoned, and she didn't think too much about it. Another odd thing she recalled is something her sister told her. The sister had moved to Iowa as a young woman. One evening, while returning home from a friend's place, she observed 2 small, bald-headed, large-eyed figures that seemed to be staring at her. When she passed them, they were standing outside of a home. On a separate note, back in 2001, Moore told the interviewer before they had a family, his wife was informed by a doctor that she was infertile. Afterwards, she went on to bear him 5 children. Did they have something to do with resolving that, Moore wondered? I didn't realize what we had captured until I randomly went through the video and stills that I took that day. The ghost had been captured on a photograph. It had a large head and long arms, one that rested on the wooden floor. Its hand had 3 to 4 fingers and was shaped like the head of an eel, like a crab's claws. Then I examined the video. As I crossed into the room and I spoke to my wife, there was a sudden 2 to 3 second wave of sound like a bucket of high-pitched frogs or crickets. I had the sound put through an analyzer. It was an extremely loud noise outside the human auditory threshold. Here it becomes bizarre. Slowed down were the words, "There is no lifelight. We cannot let them know." I took this to mean the soul had not yet arrived in my unborn daughter. Lastly, as I got up from trying to speak to what I thought was the ghost of a little girl, a blue rectangular light shoots out of the bedroom door, where the wall meets the ceiling. The interviewer asked about how they reacted when they realized that it might be something extraterrestrial versus a type of ghost or poltergeist. My wife dealt with it better. She said, "I don't think it's ghosts. It's aliens. We began to take measures to protect our children. We lived in a large house at that time. If our children woke up at night, we escorted them to the toilet. We realized if we couldn't see these beings with our own eyes, who knows what's around you? We realized as we approached the bedroom door, when we heard the noise inside, they could already see us. Perhaps that night they were in the wrong room. They didn't realize our children had swapped rooms with us. Our daughter now slept against the wall where my pregnant wife had slept. She had awoken in terror, crying for the following 9 months. We researched other people's experiences to educate ourselves with extraterrestrials, but we eventually concluded this didn't help us feel better about it." Exactly where the blue circle hit, the one the boys observed in the original encounter, through the wall was where my 7 months pregnant wife was sleeping. Afterward, thinking back, there was something unusual about that pregnancy. At 4 months, she appeared to have miscarried a twin fetus, though there was no trace of it. In summing it up, an investigator with the Flying Saucer Review noted, "The center of gravity of this case aligns with the core purpose of the extraterrestrial intrusion into the children's bedroom on 2 separate occasions. As always, to what end? It could be hypothesized that the circular blue light zeroing in on the wall behind which Joe's pregnant wife was sleeping, her strange miscarriage of her twin fetus at 4 months, the gray zombie appearing in the wrong bedroom where the pregnant mother should have been sleeping, all attest to a center of gravity zeroed in on her pregnant uterus. Her fetus was important enough to bring an extraterrestrial craft to a halt right outside her home, and beings to enter her children's bedroom. A fetus is the most vulnerable state of human life. There can be no defense for the unborn. If you alter it, you have taken control of its destiny. The voice on the video saying, "There is no lifeline, we cannot let them know," suggests the focus was on the life force evolving, developing deep within it. Is the clue the phrase, "lifeline"? Were they involved in incarnating some part of the unborn child in this case, or were they influencing it or merely witnessing it? The inevitable question is, why was the alien voice in the bedroom speaking in English? So Joe could interpret it? Similarly, why did the crouching figure he mistook for a ghost allow itself to be photographed?